Hey, good people. This is the Confessions of a Nail Tech podcast. I'm your host, Rashida H. Muhammad, Nail Tech affectionately known as Ra. I have so much to share with you this evening. Welcome. Let's get started. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Boy, oh boy, do I have something juicy to share with you tonight. I thought I needed to get this off my chest and share it with my listeners, specifically if you live in the following states. If you live in Alabama, Arizona, California, Delaware, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, Maine, Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire, New Mexico, specifically North Carolina and South Carolina, because that is where I currently reside. I live in the Carolinas now. North Dakota, South Dakota, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. I have a bone to pick with your Board of Cosmetology. What is the NIC exam? What is the National Interstate National Interstate Council of State Boards of Cosmetology? And how come New York State didn't do it or know about it? I have been licensed for some time and never in my life have I heard of something like this. So before I go off too much, I'm going to take a break so I can cool off, grab something to drink. This might be a wine sipping episode because, whoa boy, we're going to take a break and you may want to go grab your glass of wine too, or even some tea because I'm getting ready to spill it. All right, we'll take a quick break and get back into it. Now, let me take a sip first. If you know me, you know that I am a good noodle. I follow the rules and I do things by the book, which is why when I moved to Georgia, I transferred my nail tech license to Georgia so that I could then practice the art of nail technology in the state of Georgia under a license. Okay? So then I moved to the Carolinas and I thought I could do the same thing. And, I waited, I sat on the idea for a little bit because, a good portion of the advice that I give is about how to and when to, and this is how it goes. Okay. So air quotes over all of those, how to, when to, and this is how it goes, quotation marks on all three. And now that I am in this position, I haven't been in nail school in the last 10 years. Sure, I've done the continuing education units to keep my license active and current and on par. However, when it comes to transferring my license, there's endorsement that happens between, state to state. And I talk about it at length about, New York and Georgia. They do not have a reciprocity in their system. However, they will endorse. So what that means is, since the credit hours for New York State is lower than the credit hours required in Georgia, once you submit your application, you might be subject to returning to school and taking the credit hours that you are missing. However, in my case, it was grandfathered in because the board saw how long I had been licensed, saw that I was still working in a nail salon, and also saw that I went on to get my degree. So all of those things checked out for me, and it also helped that I had a letter from my current employer stating that, I've been in the salon for X amount of time and I've learned these amounts of skills. So New York to Georgia doesn't exist. However, in my case, it did. So I became licensed in the state of Georgia. Now, when I moved to South Carolina, in addition to changing my personal license over to become a South Carolina resident and my driver's license, my license plate, my registration, all of those things changing over, of course, for me, or if you are also a licensed professional in the professions or the scopes of practice of cosmetology or nail technology, waxing or what have you, then you also know you have that added responsibility of also changing over your professional license. I mean, well, this is any. So if you're a doctor, you're a judge, you're a lawyer, all of those things, you also have to make sure your license is in good standing in that state to go into that state's jurisdiction. So the same thing happens with nail technology. So I was actually today years old, and I'm going to read out everything I did. And this may also be accompanied by a video that shares my face when I read the email from the State Board of Cosmetology here. Did anyone know what the NIC exam was? That National Interstate Council of State Boards of Cosmetology exam. So it's the written and the practical exam. And, I, again, tried to be a good noodle, and I got my license together, and I gathered all of my materials to support that I am a licensed professional in the states of New York and Georgia. And I also went back to school, and here's what I did, and paid all of the fees, which was no easy feat. That was actually, and I did the math on all of this. You know me, I'm with numbers. So I requested 2 copies of my verification be sent to South Carolina because I had been licensed so long ago, and I was licensed prior to the scheduled rate of destruction in New York State. So if you've been licensed 10 years ago, or it was more than 6 years ago, then the verification gets destroyed. All they can show is that you successfully passed the exam and give you the dates, which, hey, we'll fight that a little later. And so again, I mailed that out. That was $25 per copy. So I'm already at $50. I then paid $35 to the Georgia Secretary of State for a license verification. And that usually took about 14 days, but Georgia is efficient and they sent it out next business day, no problem. Mwah, chef's kiss. I then paid a $60 application processing fee to the state of South Carolina Division of Licensing for the Board of Cosmetology and Nails. So then I also had to pay $16.99 for my photo, which you can go to Walgreens for that. You have to have a 2-inch by 2-inch passport-like photo to go onto your license so that they can verify you are who you say you are. And then I also had to get these documents notarized. So I had to get a notarized signature affidavit notarized, and then a notarized of physical presence. So someone had to physically see me in South Carolina with my state ID and say that, yes, you are who you say you are. And that was $10 at UPS. So that brought me to a grand total of $171.99 for this portion of the process. Right. So I'm already almost $200 into this process. Luckily, I'm blessed, so that wasn't too bad, but this is very close to the holidays, and I sent everything off in good faith, hoping and praying that it would get approved. So long story extremely short, my license is pending that I complete the NIC exam. And the crazy thing is that I've been licensed for 10 years, and I got the email about sometime last week, and I wanted to scream. I'm still a little mad about it, but hey, I'm a good noodle, so we're going to do what we have to do to get ourselves licensed so that I can continue to share my expertise from the Carolinas to you. I got the email that says, "Good afternoon. Thank you for submitting your application for a nail tech license. Our office is in receipt of your endorsement application and received the required documents. However, we are unable to move forward." And in bold print, it says, "South Carolina requires all out-of-state applicants to take and pass the National Interstate Council, both theory and practical examinations." I won't read the rest because it's going to go on the YouTube channel. But I wanted to scream. I saw that and I immediately wanted to scream. And then not only did they already get quite a bit of money out of me, it says that I need to print out this application, fill it out, and mail it back to the office with a $45 money order or check. Now, if you were still paying attention to the math and you want to do the math with me right now, I'm already $171.99 in. And then I have to pay another $45 to get this application process to take the practical exam. Not to mention that I still may have to purchase things to do the practical exam. So it's $216.99 already. And I'm paying attention because I have other motives for this, to help make the lives of nail technicians better who may come after me when I come out on the other side of this process. Because again, I am a good noodle, and even though I'm complaining, I'm getting this off of my chest, I am going to go and sit for the written and practical because I want to keep my license in good standing. I do not believe in investing in something just to let it die out and fester out. That's not how I'm built. So that's why I am making this episode specifically for those who are licensed out of state and those who are licensed in states that do not have the NIC exam. If you have a state exam, a state practical exam, and you are trying to relocate to one of the states that I mentioned earlier in this episode, then I highly, highly, highly recommend taking the NIC exam or reaching out to that board of cosmetology to say, hey, before I spend all of this money, can I sit for the NIC exam? Because I'm $171. I'm going to keep saying that because I am a little upset that I spent all this money just to be told, oh, you still have to sit for this exam. Now, I'm curious now about would I have had to pay all this money anyway to become licensed? So I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to take a breather because I feel myself getting angry again. So I'm going to, and then we're going to talk about the difference between the National Interstate Council of State Boards of Cosmetology exam versus your state practical exam, because I feel like those two distinctions are very important, especially when you are becoming licensed, because again, this is something I didn't know. So this is a learning opportunity for me and for you. So I'm excited, but I'm halfway mad still, but I'm excited because I get to sharpen up my skills. All right. So we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back to this. All right. Good people, this is my social media plug. Welcome to the village, all my new subscribers and new listeners and just new people who came and found Nails by Ra. I truly do appreciate you. This is my shameless social media plug. Make sure you check out the nailsbyra.com website. Yes, we are back. This is my virtual warehouse, my virtual address of all of the places that I have, all of the brands that I have underneath Nails by Ra. On here, you can find the Confessions of a Nail Tech podcast. You can also find my Twitter at Nails by Ra, also my Facebook at Nails by Ra, Instagram at Nails by Ra, as well as YouTube at Nails by Ra. However, if you just want to check me out, visit www.nailsbyra.com. I'm looking for you and I'm waiting for you to subscribe. Tell your friends to tell your friends to tell your friends about me. All right, ciao. I hope I do not come off bratty, but there is the semi-lawyer in me who wishes to understand the rationale behind the NIC exam and not allowing for someone who has been licensed for as long as I have to not be endorsed and then have to sit for the state board exam again. To me, that seems duplicative and redundant. And you already know I did craft an email to the state board and asked to sit before the State Board of Cosmetology, the board of directors, to discuss possibly a clause to admit those who have more than 5 years of salon experience and a license to automatically be endorsed, because I don't think those who are coming from other states should be penalized for that when they move to a state. It creates an unnecessary barrier for people wanting to enter into the workforce, and that's legislation. So yes, I crafted up an email and I sent it. I am currently awaiting a reply, but I just wanted to know. This is also one of those things where if you think something is wrong, you should challenge it. You really should. And I say that with caution because some things are just how they are. However, something like this does need to be challenged, because think about how much more money could be in circulation if simple stipulations like this did not exist. I understand trying to keep people safe. I understand that. However, something like this would make sense if I was recently licensed last year, 6 months ago, or I just finished my credit hours in another state. That all makes sense. However, if I have been a licensed nail technician for the past 10 years and working in the salon for the past 6, then that should be enough evidence that I know what I'm doing, don't you think? And then I took it a step further and went back to school for a formal education where I hold multiple degrees. And these aren't me just going back to school just to go back to school. All of these paths are to better myself, right? And I'm so happy that I'm able to do this episode, because I'm telling you, when I got that email, I wanted to flip tables and chairs, because how dare you? How dare you? So as promised, I did want to talk about the difference between the NIC exam versus the state exam or the practical exam. And this is from the stateboardprofessor.com. So Shakita Singleton, shout out to you. Thank you. I love this article because it falls right in line with my dilemma, essentially. So we think about if you live in any of those other states. So I was originally licensed in New York State, and I still have yet to do some research on why New York State is not a part of the NIC. But, and I don't even know if I'm saying that right, NIC, National Interstate Council of State Boards of Cosmetology. The whole purpose of that was to work closely with state officials. So these state officials are reviewing existing licensing requirements, and this is an effort to unify that, state to state specific needs, or state to state license endorsement or reciprocity, because you're holding people back when you do that, especially in these special cases. I think that sometimes, and I really do enjoy what Georgia did, because Georgia is on this list as a member of the National Interstate Council, and they accepted my license. So I don't understand what the problem is for South Carolina and why they're being so strict on the passing of this exam. I don't get it. So I do want to ask so that I do understand, because Georgia was a member and accepted it, but South Carolina won't. So just kind of curious. And so the difference between the National Interstate Council and your state exam or your practical exam is that NIC has been tasked with deciding what the industry standard is of learning and demonstration of your scope of practice to become licensed. So in cosmetology, barbering, nail technology, esthetician, this board was put together to make sure that this was a standardized testing system and give you the option to get into an exam that is nationally accepted. And the thing that I disagree with is because it's like, why in the world do these two systems exist? That's what I don't understand the rationale. Because if your state is a private exam state, it shouldn't vary too much from the NIC exam. And correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to send me an email and correct me, because I am coming into this completely green. And I just wonder what the NIC testing guidelines are. So actually, we're going to take a break while I research that really quickly, because now I'm curious. I feel like I'm helping you as I help myself, because, I'm not going to stop here. Hopefully I do get to sit before the state board and ask my questions so that I understand, or they may be able to allow me to have my license here, because this just doesn't make sense for someone like myself to have to retake the exam. And I know you feel the same way. I remember when I first did the video about transferring your license from state to state, I got an email so long from a lady who went through this exact same thing. And I didn't brush her off, but I just told her, I'm sorry that this is happening to you. But the best bet is to just sit for the state board, or try to reach out to the state board and see if you can sit with them, similar to what I'm doing. I don't know if she ended up doing that, but hey, I'm going to go through it. I am going to go through it so that you don't have to, and see how we come out on the other side. So we're going to take a quick break so I can pull up what the NIC testing guidelines are, so that way I can better serve you if you decide to move to Alabama, Arizona, California, Delaware, yada, 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 West Virginia, Wisconsin, South Carolina, North Carolina, all of those states that practice the NIC exam testing guideline. So we're going to take a quick break so I can get that for you. So it looks like the more you know, the more you grow. And the NIC has actually been around since 1929. Yeah. So in 1929, it was the National Council of Boards of Beauty Culture. And it was established to develop a form of interstate exchange of ideas related to licensure, reciprocity examinations, and administration methods when it comes to beauty. While I agree with that, on a national level, it is not widely accepted. So you see where the dilemma is? I'm getting this right from nictesting.org, their vision statement. And this idea of uniformity to the practices of cosmetology and related fields, while yes, I absolutely agree, but when it's not accepted in all 50 states and territories, it makes it difficult for anyone who is moving from those places to practice in the states that accepts the NIC examination to continue to learn. Thankfully, I am not in the position where this is my only source of income, nail technology, but it's one of them. And I wish to remain in good standing, So I'm interested to hear from you all about this exam. Have you taken the exam before? How was it? There is the written practical exam, and, just what is it? I think this is that cognitive dissonance that people talk about. I'm experiencing a little bit of that because for so long I had done something one way or was used to it one way. And now that it is being challenged, it's not sticking for me. So there is no wiggle room in the National Interstate Council for these kinds of cases. And I think it would behoove them to handle each application on a case-by-case basis and allow for that flexibility of members who are licensed in other states to be able to come here and practice. And I pulled this directly from the South Carolina, the state, exactly, their code of laws. And this is from, when was the last revision? 98. So this may be a little outdated, but the fact that it is still here and available, there are a couple of clauses in here that they don't necessarily still stick to. They don't coincide with the current regulations that are placed upon those trying to practice nail technology. So I'm going to get a little deep. So the qualifications for licensure for cosmetologist and esthetician, nail technician, and this is section 40, 13 to 30. There are 3 qualifications. So the first one is you have to be at least 16 years of age and possess at least a 10th grade education. I don't brag or mean to brag when I mention my education part. However, I've way surpassed that. And then it has the second qualification has completed at least 1,500 hours in classes in cosmetology in a reliable school approved by the board or is registered master hair care specialist pursuant to Chapter 7, who has satisfied educational requirements established by the state board and has passed the examination prescribed by the board and pays the required fee. It doesn't make sense there because this is all in regards to cosmetology, right? And then this section about reciprocity to non-residents, their licenses are automatically endorsed under the other state's laws, but they can still practice in South Carolina. So you see where my frustration comes from when dealing with what the state laws say versus the NIC regulations. You would be a little upset too if something like this was standing in the way of you getting something that you wanted. So when it comes to the state board exam, it shouldn't vary from state to state, and I can't imagine it being any different than the one that I took. So what was it? 1,500 credit hours for cosmetology. However, in South Carolina, you only need 300 credit hours. And, it just, the years of experience alone surpass 300 credit hours. And so, you know what? While we still have you, I think I'm going to look into the New York State nail technician licensing as well. And we might get into that a little bit more later. Or even another episode because we're kind of running out of time here. But I just wanted to get into that a little bit. We're going to get out of here with that. So again, let me know your thoughts. Make sure you reach out to me at Nails by Ra. Check out nailsbyra.com or email me at nailsbyra@gmail.com, and we can continue this conversation. If you wanted to share some of your expertise with me on the best way to get licensed or if there's a loophole, because, oh yes, I sent that email. I was trying, it wasn't a nasty gram, but I sent it with facts and receipts. So we're going to see. All right, ciao. Hey there. I know we covered a lot this episode, and I mean a lot, but I had so much to get off my chest and I feel so much better. Thank you for listening. So let's just get into it. We covered the NIC exam versus the state board exam, and the NIC is your National Interstate Council of Cosmetology Boards exam that is offered in states mainly, well, it says national, but it's offered in states mainly in the South and the Midwest, not so much in the northern states or New England, but it's just interesting to see the different dynamics and the need for these two systems, or are they even necessary? So I challenge you. And part 2, the overarching theme of this episode was to challenge something that does not feel right or seem right or make sense. You have a right to do that. So when you are moving to your new states, your respective states, make sure you're looking at the Board of Cosmetology requirements. And if they don't make sense, and if you feel like you are a special case, reach out to the Board of Cosmetology and just ask. The worst they can say is no. So until next time, ciao. Thank you for tuning in to the Confessions of a Nail Tech podcast. I've been your host, Rashida H. Muhammad, Nail Tech affectionately known as Ra. Make sure you tune in next week, Tuesday, for our next episode. Looking forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, subscribe to the Confessions of a Nail Tech podcast, and make sure you stay in the loop by following me across the board on social media at Nails by Ra. Also visit me at www.nailsbyrod.com. Until next time.